Correct.
Okay. And can you just kind of describe in general terms what is involved in the external examination?
So the external examination is also standard process for any postmortem examination. And I always describe it as I start on one side of the body, say a foot, work my way up the entire side of that body to the head, and then to the opposite side of the body. And what I'm looking for is evidence of natural disease, evidence of trauma, any potentially identifying features like hair color, eye color, tattoos, scars, etc. Lots of different things. And once I'm done kind of looking at, and then lastly we will roll the body so that I can see the back of the body. And then once that's complete, that's the end of the external examination.
And as part of this external examination, do you photograph the body both before and after it is, I guess for lack of a better word, cleaned?
Yes, sir.
Can you describe, once the as-is photographs are taken, what happens next?
So once the as-is photographs are taken, we would collect trace evidence, if again, depending on the type of case, but you would not want to do that after you've cleaned the body. So we'll collect any trace evidence, and then fingerprint the body, and then we will clean the body. And that way you remove any clothing, any evidence of medical intervention, any dirt, blood, etc., so that you can see the body in its entirety.
Now, I noticed in your report, and I believe we're still on page 1, that you talked about the hair being wet.
Yes, sir.
Was that from it being cleaned or something else?
No, it was received that way.
And commonly in an autopsy, if a person had been wearing clothes at the time that they were deceased, what would you receive? Just the body or something else?
If they had clothing on at the time that they were pronounced, the clothing would still be on the body, or clothing that may be with the body come with the body.
And was any clothing brought to you with the body of Athena Strand?
No, sir.
Now, with regard to the evidence of the body itself, can you just kind of give us, you weigh the body?
Yes, sir.
Right? And what was the weight of this little girl?
The weight is 67 pounds.
And what was the height or measurement?
52 inches.
And in layman's terms, or feet and inches?
Oh man, make me do math. I'm showing my Tarrant County son. So 60 inches is 5 feet, so she's 8 inches below that, so that's...
4 feet, 4 inches?
Sounds good, yes. I'm so embarrassed.
That's all right. I think the judge would say you did go to Texas A&M. So.
Oh, no.
So did I.
Oh.
With regard to, so Athena is 67 pounds, 4 feet, 4 inches, is that correct? And what was some of the observations that you made during the external examination of Athena's body?
So I already mentioned that she was received naked, no clothing received with the body. There's no jewelry on the body. In addition, like I said, the surface of the body were covered with brown dirt or silt, and there was fragments of brown vegetation within the scalp hair and on the surfaces of her body. She also has what we call pruning or washerwoman changes in the skin of her hands and feet. Other than that, she had some evidence of injury, which is much more extensive than just what I'm describing.
And let's talk about that. Not specifically what the injuries are at this point, but when you open the body bag and you see the body of this little girl, describe for the jury sort of where you're seeing the injuries on her body just from first look.
My initial impression, the first thing I thought is that she is completely congested from the neck up, meaning that it's much darker due to blood kind of being in that area of the body. Trying to think of a better way to describe congested, but it was just you know, you could tell that there was something going on in the head and neck area. That's before we even cleaned the body.
And congestion, is that related? It's hard, I want to kind of give a lay person's understanding what that means.
It's, the best way to describe it is blood's backed up in the vasculature.
And I'm not sure I understand anymore, but what's vasculature?
So all the blood vessels that circulate blood throughout your body are the vasculature system. So it's arteries, veins, and connecting those two are capillaries.
And is that something that you see in certain types of deaths versus others?
Yes?
And can you describe that for the jury, please?
Well, let me say congestion on its own as an isolated finding can be nonspecific. And you can see it in sudden cardiac deaths. You can see it in drownings. You can see it in asphyxial type deaths. So it's nondescript on its own, but a constellation of findings can be more helpful when you're making a diagnosis.
And when you're saying a constellation of findings, are you talking about the overall findings taken together?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, once she was cleaned up, could you still see this congestion, the blood near the skin, from her basically mid-chest to the top of her head?
Yes, sir.
And would the fact, I guess I have to frame it to you in a hypothetical situation, if a person had received injuries close to the time of their death and then was immediately put in a cooler type situation, either a colder body of water or a cooler like you have in your laboratory, would that essentially sort of,
Objection, Your Honor, leading.
what would that do? Sorry.
Okay, your objection leading is overruled based on the last statement.
So if I'm repeating your question,
Yes.
would, if someone had those findings and then died, would they be altered by being put into a cooler?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Would it slow the normal rate of something that might change the appearance over time?
So the coolness of the cooler is to preserve the condition of the body by decreasing the rate of decomposition. That's just a known fact that decomposition slows when it's cold.
So if a body were put into a colder body of water in November, would that also help slow the rate of decomposition?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, with regard to the body of Athena Strand, we're talking about the external examination. Were there further, go to the next page. This is the page 2, it states exhibit number 274. You kind of went on to describe some more of the findings in the external examination.
Yes, sir.
And I don't necessarily feel like you have to read every word, but if you would give it sort of a synopsis and then maybe also explain as best you can in layperson's terms so we can understand it as well.
Sure.